Ladies and gentlemen, what a hell of an update this is going to be. And I want you guys to remember this picture right here because I talked about body language in my original video. So go back and look at when we talked about the Cal City missing boys, hashtag where are the boys? Orrin and Orson West, otherwise known as Classic and Sincere Pettis, I believe is their last name, their real last name. This story does have a little bit of a conclusion with a bittersweet ending because they still don't have the bodies of these babies. They have no idea where they at. But before I get a little bit deeper into the details about the sentencing, so this is just a mere update, let me give you guys a quick disclaimer. Some viewers may find the following content offensive and controversial. The information in this video comes from multiple sources, including court records, official police charges, news web articles, and interviews. This video commentary also contains my personal opinions about the facts of this story. The point is to use this story as a cautionary tale in hopes of preventing tragedies like these to children going forward. Viewer discretion is advised. That is your official disclaimer. And I think this is a hell of an update. So for some people, this might be old, but other people haven't heard this yet. If you go back and watch my original video, which I encourage people to do when I gave my commentary on this, one of the first things that I called out was I said, look at their body language. Arms was crossed, blocking information, and his eyes were looking down. Come to find out, they've been convicted, but let me give you some details. This is coming from courttv.com. I think they also have a YouTube channel. And they did some videos on this also, but a lot of people have. So thank you, Court TV, for the article. That's where I'm reading from. Bakersville, California. A jury found Trezell and Jacqueline West guilty. 5 of the 7 counts that they were facing related to the death of their adopted children. The jury was hung on 2 counts after days of deliberation. After being asked by the judge, the jury's foreperson said that they would not be able to come to a verdict on the final two counts. The bodies of the missing children, Orrin and Orson West, otherwise known as, I'm adding this part, otherwise known as Classic and Sincere, have yet to be found. But Southern California prosecutors say that they have more than enough direct and circumstantial evidence to try their adoptive parents for their mysterious murders. Murders would imply that they're dead and that they have proof that they're dead. Even the fact that they've been dead for a while before they went missing. I want to throw that out there real quick. The brothers, ages 3 and 4 years old, were reported missing from their California City home on December the 21st of 2020 by the West, which they went out in the street, did an interview. The couple also had 2 biological children and 2 other adopted children, all below the age of 10 years old, under their roof at the time. 2 days after reporting the boys missing, the Wests spoke to reporters and neighbors outside of their home. They said it was understandable that people suspected them of foul play, but insisted that they wanted nothing more than to find the boys. Scrutiny quickly fell upon the West, whom police described as cooperative throughout the investigation. Time passed, tips poured in, search parties were formed, and I'll add this part also, a ton of YouTubers jumped on this case and did endless streams, and shout out to them. To me, that just showed that they cared. I don't doubt that there were probably some people that did it just for the views, but I know some people, they really actually cared. They were doing investigations and getting information, doing interviews. They did a really good job. So shout out to them. Fate remained a mystery until the Wests were taken into custody on March the 1st of 2020 or March 1st of 2022 last year. District Attorney Cynthia Zimmer announced the following day that the couple had been indicted by a grand jury. Evidence from an exhaustive investigation pinpointed Orrin and Orson having died in September of 2020, 3 months before they were reported missing. Please let me know y'all heard that part, because that's probably the part that a lot of people haven't heard yet. They reportedly died in September of 2020, 3 months before they were reported missing, which points back to the parents, the adoptive parents. Charges against the West included second-degree murder, involuntary manslaughter, and willful cruelty to a child, among other counts. Perhaps the biggest question is where exactly investigators believe the children were killed, California City or Bakersfield, where the West lived until September 2020. But investigators have not yet revealed which city they think the boys were killed in. Now, according to law enforcement, the boys died as a result of abuse. But the case is based on circumstantial evidence. The West pled not guilty to the 7 counts against them. In the first and only defense press conference, Trezell West's lawyer, Timothy Hennessy, urged the public to remember that the burden of a proof in a grand jury proceeding is lower than in a jury trial, and that the defense did not have a chance to hear evidence or question witnesses due to the secrecy of the proceeding. The trial was postponed from its original start date in October to give the defense time to review evidence that they said was slow to reach them. After the Wests were arrested, the biological mother and grandmother of the victims filed a wrongful death suit in the amount of $40 million against the Kern County Department of Human Services and others, claiming that the boys' adoptions were negligent and led to their deaths. The lawsuit was dismissed in January. Go back and watch my last video on the biological mother, and I ripped her a new butthole because I said, how the hell do you not have custody of your kids, but you're coming in and crying and bitching and whining about you want some money now, and they was wrong for what they did to my kids, but you were wrong for not being able to provide for your kids from the jump. But that's a whole nother story. Y'all go back and watch my video. I don't got to repeat all of that. Go back and watch that video. It's on my channel. So if you want to hear about that, I did a whole video on it. You'll thank me later. In opening statements, the prosecution alleged that the West adopted Orrin and Orson, who were given the names Classic and Sincere Pettis at birth, so I was right about that, with the intention of living off the money they'd receive for providing foster care. And what do we call that at the AFC? Hashtag babies for benefits. That was pure babies for benefits. Defense attorneys countered that California City was punishing the West for being different and that officials would rather blame them than continue searching for the boys. At least some of the West's 4 surviving children, who are all currently living in state custody, are expected to be called to the stand at trial. Trezell and Jacqueline West face life sentences if convicted of murder or conspiracy charges in the deaths of their brothers. We give you guys the fair usage. We'll let you hear the video. Federal law allows citizens to reproduce, distribute, or exhibit portions of copyrighted motion pictures, videotapes, or video discs under certain circumstances without the authorization of the copyright holder. This is called fair use. It is allowed for purposes of criticism, news reporting, teaching, and parody, which doesn't infringe of copyright under 17 U.S.C. 107. If you guys are watching this video, do me a favor and please click that thumbs up. It will help us out quite a bit, so we'll have 1 thumb up for everybody watching, hopefully. And if I'm not mistaken, as of May the 19th, they were found guilty of 5 of the 7 counts, which we already talked about. They were found guilty of 5 out of the 7 counts.
Looking over hours of testimony, more than 100 exhibits of evidence, and coming to a guilty verdict on counts 1 through 3 for second-degree murder, involuntary manslaughter, and child cruelty pertaining to Orrin, and counts 6 through 7 for child cruelty pertaining to Orson and false reporting of an emergency. On the conspiracy and murder charge pertaining to Orson, the jury was deadlocked.
Is there anything further, any clarification of the law, further argument from counsel, anything that any juror believes would be of assistance in regard to reaching a verdict as to those 2 counts? Was there number 1?
No, Your Honor.
Orrin and Orson were reported missing on December 21st, 2020. The prosecution in the trial arguing that the couple reported the boys missing at the time to cover up that they had been dead for months. The defense arguing that authorities overlooked details and only looked at Trezell and Jacqueline as suspects. Experts following the trial say that this case was no easy challenge for either side or the jurors.
Any witness is subject to being led down a road for the police officers to steer them in a certain direction. Kids are more likely to be steered, we would think in general, than adults would be, but the prosecutor obviously was able to handle those questions.
As the trial comes to an end, family and community members say a weight has been lifted.
I'll finally get to close my eyes and know that justice has been served.
But the story doesn't end there, because the question, where are the boys, still remains.
We still got to keep their faces out there no matter what.
And for those involved, they won't give up until they have an answer.
Tell us where the bodies are now. Give the bio parents and the foster mom and everybody else closure.
Now, this verdict is just another chapter in the long and sad story of these missing boys. 17's Alex Fisher joins us with more on how we got to this point.
They are our children, and so we want them back.
A desperate plea just 4 days before Christmas. Trezell and Jacqueline West report two of their kids are missing. It's December 21st, 2020. The West claim 3-year-old Orson and 4-year-old Orrin had gone missing from the backyard of their home on the edge of the vast desert community of California City.
I came in the house, I saw them there. I went in the house, I came back out, I didn't see them there. I realized that I left the gate open and I panicked.
The couple called police later that night. Officers and neighbors rushed to the house and started looking for the boys, scouring yards and fields.
And that's all I want is to find my babies. You understand? I hit a bunch of corners. I went down this street, I turned my light on, I searched, I called their names.
The next day, the search turned into an investigation. Investigators went through the West home, taking large brown bags full of evidence. The family's van was towed. Their cell phones were seized. Police said the Wests were cooperating with the investigation, but authorities removed the family's 4 other sons to protective custody. The community prayed. They left presents. Family, friends, and strangers all clinging to hope.
We're looking for something to do. Look, some way that we could step up and do something with the community. And right now, the only thing that we can do is give gifts because they weren't able to get gifts on Christmas.
Police continued their search. They dug up vacant fields. They used ground-penetrating radar to search for bodies, but nothing.
What I do truly believe is that night, there is no way that they could have got out of that the neighborhood without some sort of assistance from an adult.
Police wouldn't say who that adult might have been, but a week later, the exhausted chief was more blunt.
I can't comment on that, whether I think they're alive or not. I do suspect foul play. We haven't been able to put together, how the boys got out of the yard or where they've gone.
4 months later, the Bakersfield Police Department took over the case. BPD said they had more resources than the 21-officer California City Police Department. After BPD got the case, investigators followed up on leads, some of them leading to massive searches.
I expect that there will be more searches. There's been numerous interviews, numerous search warrants, and that will continue until we know what happened.
Nothing was turning up. The community was getting worried, but still remained hopeful.
These boys will be found. They will be brought home.
Community contributions poured in to create a reward of more than $100,000. Prayer vigils were held. People gathered to ask God to return the boys safely. Trezell and Jacqueline never attended any. Then, a year later, a stunning development.
The investigation has revealed that Orrin and Orson West are deceased. The investigation has also revealed that they died 3 months before their adoptive parents reported them missing.
Trezell and Jacqueline West were indicted by the grand jury on charges they murdered the boys. Hours before his arrest, 17 News tracked down Trezell West at a post office in Edison. He took off in an RV west of Bakersfield, and that's when police caught up to him and made the arrest. For 14 months, people asked, Where are the boys? Now they were asking something different.
The question is now, where are the boys' bodies? We want to be able to bring them home and, give them a proper burial.
Trezell and Jacqueline West pleaded not guilty.
It feels good, though, to see them sitting there handcuffed in those brown suits or whatever. That's where they belong.
The trial went on for more than a month. Witnesses said they hadn't seen the boys for months prior to them being reported missing.
Ultimately, the answer to the question of where are the boys will be answered. It's that they're dead. And at the end of the case, I will ask you to return a verdict of guilty beyond a reasonable doubt as to Trezell and Jacqueline for the murders of Orrin and Orson West.
But the pivotal testimony came from the West's eldest biological child, who claimed he saw 4-year-old Orrin's body at the family's home.
They let him die.
The defense argued that police focused on the West from the very beginning, ignoring other possible suspects.
This was a tragic accident, is what the evidence will show. All right? They don't have an answer for it because it was tragic. But instead, Trezell is here on a murder charge.
We are saying that, honestly, anything could have happened, right? They were abducted. We don't know. And to be quite honest, if we knew the answers to that, we really wouldn't even be here.
The question remains the same. Where are the boys?
So here's my thing. So in closing, I was right about the body language. I was right that something was wrong here. A lot of people are right about a lot of the things that they were doing. But just the fact that so many people galvanized and came together and was looking for these boys and they were concerned, I'm like, that's what a community's supposed to do. So Cal City did this right. They did as best as they could. I believe that those two individuals as parents have been lying this whole time, misleading. And it sounds like they might have gotten away and disposed of these babies' bodies, and we just don't know how or where or actually when. But, I think it'll take a miracle for us to ever find those bodies. But nonetheless, this will at least give us a conclusion to this story. Sometimes bodies are never found. So, just keep praying that maybe we'll get lucky. Maybe they'll be able to confirm their identities, and that'll give, I think, everybody some closure to this. But these boys have had just hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people that have been concerned to try to either find them or at least find the bodies. So keep your prayer hands up in the chat for that. Thank you guys so much for following this story. That's pretty much a conclusion, unless we get a major break in this story about where the bodies actually are. But thank you. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Thank you.